Hi everyone, Mr. H here. This is part 2 of chapter 3.3 Break-Even Analysis. In our previous video, we explained the concept of contribution and we shared the different formulae we need to get either the contribution per unit or the total contribution. We also shared a new formula to get the profit from the total contribution. We also explain in detail all the steps to draw a proper fully labeled break-even chart. We explain the meaning of all these lines, and we explain how we get the break-even point with its corresponding break-even quantity in the chart. We also explain the concept of safety margin and how we get the safety margin both in the chart and in numbers. We will now go to how we get the actual, the specific break-even quantity in accurate numbers. So we go to the math part right now. To calculate the break-even point, the break-even quantity, we have two possible ways, two different formulae. Number one, we can get it with the contribution per unit. This is why we explained this concept in the beginning of this chapter, because contribution is an important element to get the break-even quantity. How so? Well, the break-even quantity is you get the break-even quantity by dividing the total fixed costs by the contribution per unit. Remember that the contribution per unit was acquired after subtracting the variable cost per unit from the price per unit. So you get the price per unit, you cut the variable cost for that unit, for that product, and then you get the contribution per unit. Use the total fixed cost that you pay every month, and by making this a simple calculation, you are getting Q, you're getting the break-even quantity. Very simple. Another possibility is actually starting from the concept that the total costs and the total revenue are the same at the break-even point. Remember, in the break-even point exactly, the total costs equal the total revenue. So starting from that point, see, total revenue equals total costs, we can develop this equation. So the price times the quantity, Q being your variable in this equation, you get the price per unit, and then you get the total revenue, you get it from here, and the total cost, you know that is the total fixed cost plus the total variable costs. Remember that the total variable cost is the variable cost per unit times, again, Q, the quantity, and by developing and finding Q from this equation, you will again get the break-even quantity. Okay, you just need the price, the total fixed costs, and the total variable costs, or just the variable cost per unit, and then you get exactly your break-even point. So there are these two possibilities to get the break-even quantity in exact numbers. Now, the break-even chart and these calculations, these formulae, do not only serve to get the break-even quantity. Actually, the same information, the same chart, and the same calculations can help you find out other different useful values for business decisions. For example, you can get the target profit output. The target profit output is the level of output needed to earn a specific level of profit, or in other words, it is finding out how much you would have to produce and sell if you want to reach or achieve one specific level of profit. So if you are planning to get some specific profit, this same formula, by replacing some variables and values here, may allow you to get exactly how much you have to produce, okay, the quantity, in order to get one specific level of profit. It's the same if you want to get the target price. If you want to know specifically at what price you have to sell in order to achieve one specific target profit, I mean, like what price you have to sell your product to get one specific target profit, then you can also use the same formula and the same chart to check whether that price is the right price, okay, and how and at what price you would have to sell if you want to reach one specific level of profit. So it's the same formula, you're just replacing values here would allow you to see those numbers. So as you can see, the break-even point and the break-even chart and analysis would provide you with plenty of information to lead your business decisions in terms of profit, loss, production, and sales, and the costs, and how to handle costs, okay, and pricing too. So this is a very useful tool for business. Now that we have finished discussing all this, let's talk about the benefits and limitations of the break-even analysis. Beginning with benefits, one good thing about the break-even analysis is that the chart itself portrays information visually, and it is very useful to see in a chart, to see visually how costs and revenues relate and how far we can get safety, how safe we can get from the loss, how far we can get from the break-even point to make sure that we're getting profit and we are safe as a business. So as a visual aid, it is actually very useful. It is also a quick way to determine profit, loss, and safety margin. I mean, as you could see, there are simple calculations to find out these specific values. Also, the formulae provide accurate results. And I mean, if you're using accurate data, you would get actually accurate results that would really help your business and your business decisions. Also, if you are considering changes, you can actually make some you can try these formulae many times with different values to consider specific changes in prices and costs, and that will allow you to make even a better decision about prices, about costs. Also, is a very important strategic decision-making tool, as you could see. However, there are a few limitations you have to consider when you are using the break-even chart and the break-even analysis. Number one, it assumes all outputs are sold. I mean, it assumes that everything you are producing, you are selling it completely. It doesn't consider that you might want to keep some of your output, some of your production in stock for a later time. So that is not considered in this calculation. You just consider you're producing and selling it all. It also assumes that the revenue and the cost go linear. As you can see in the chart, these two lines, cost and revenue, just go straight up without any variation. In real life, these lines might not actually go that linear. Semi-variable costs are also not considered, and that's actually very important. You could see we just talked about variable costs and fixed costs. Sometimes we just include the semi-variable costs in the variable ones just to make quick calculations, but remember, semi-variable costs are not being considered here. Also, if your business environment is like too dynamic, it is changing too often, I mean, costs, regulations, and everything in your business is changing too fast, too often, then this break-even analysis will not serve in the long term for a long-term analysis. Okay, it will not be that suitable then. Okay, you gotta be careful if your business environment is too dynamic. And number five, as I said before, since we are getting accurate results, it will depend on the accuracy of cost and revenue data. So if the information you are getting is just estimates, keep in mind that the results will also be estimated results, so they will not be as accurate as required. You want to tell exactly how many products you have to produce to cover for your costs. You first gotta get the exact costs that you're spending for every product or for the whole, and then you can make sure that you are getting an effective value as break-even quantity. So you make sure that you're having very accurate data, or otherwise you will actually get just estimates which will not really serve. And finally, yes, fixed costs may change. I mean, even though we know that fixed costs are those costs that always remain unchanged along the year, along a specific period of time, still something might happen in real life and fixed costs may also change, changing therefore the results and the values of the break-even analysis. So there are good benefits to consider, but remember, this chart is based on a number of assumptions and is not considered a number of other factors that you really have to think about too. So keep that in mind when you're using it. It's giving you important data to make business decisions, but still there are certain things that is assuming, and leaving behind that you have to consider when making business decisions. So this is it for the break-even analysis, the break-even chart, and all the break-even calculations. This is it for this video and for chapter 3.3. That's it. Bye bye.